Hello and welcome to Ask John. I think this is the 20th, this is the umpteenth, 20th episode of Ask John, a show that was conceived with the idea that guests would come on and ask John. I'm John Reuscher, by the way. Guests would come on and ask John financial questions, and it slowly turned into something else, which is a lot more fun, where people started asking, I started asking my guest questions. That's kind of how it started changing. I started asking my guest questions, and I enjoyed that much more than answering questions. And so since the first couple of episodes, I've been interviewing interesting people and really enjoying it. And I hope you have been enjoying it as well. Today is another exception where we have actually 4 guests today. And so let me introduce my guests. We have Theresa Stern.
Hello.
And Jane Flower.
Hello.
And we have Wills.
Yes.
And we have Pilaf. Hi, Pilaf. How are you doing, Pilaf?
It's all good.
And you might guess that these 4 beautiful creatures are with guide dogs for the blind. And they're going to tell us a little bit about guide dogs, and they're going to tell us a little about guide dogs and their own experience with them. Theresa, who on earth ever thought, and when did someone ever, who on earth ever thought you could use a dog to help people out the way they do?
Right? It's a crazy idea. No one
It
would
is
have
a crazy
ever.
idea.
Yeah. But then if you think about it, it's not really. Like, dogs have been helping humans for centuries in different kinds of capacities. And so this came about probably in the 1920s. It actually started in Switzerland. And a woman there came up with the idea to help people who had lost their vision during, warfare. So generally for like veterans. And then that group came out and started the school called the Seeing Eye in New Jersey. And in 1942, I believe it was, we started our guide dog school, Guide Dogs for the Blind. We're now located in San Rafael. Originally, we were located in Los Gatos, which is funny for anybody.
Gatos.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What is Los Gatos?
Right. So for anybody that speaks Spanish, Los Gatos means the cats, which is just kind of a funny thing. So the dogs made us move to San Rafael many years ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
Didn't like that.
Yeah, so we have a campus in San Rafael and another campus up in Oregon in a little town called Boring.
Boring, Oregon.
Yeah.
So are there other such organizations?
There's about 12 different organizations across the U.S. Our school is the largest school in North America, and we serve clients from all over the U.S. and Canada.
And you are Vice President of Outreach. What is your title?
It's always hard to remember. You have to have a couple cups of coffee to see if I can remember it. Yeah. So I'm the Vice President of Outreach, Admissions, and Alumni Services. So I mostly work on the people side of things. I'm also visually impaired myself and travel with a guide dog.
Aha. I was saying earlier, you have to say that you're visually impaired because you have such good eye contact. I don't know if that's a nice thing to say, or I don't know if that's an appropriate thing to say, but it's the truth, and you kind of have to tell people.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I think a lot of people, when they hear the word blind, they think it's someone who can't see anything at all. But a lot of people who are considered blind or legally blind have some amount of remaining vision. So for me, I can see you. I can't see any details, but I kind of know where to point my head so that I'm making eye contact.
Yeah, I have a friend that I spend a lot of time with, and he was getting in my car the other day, and he said, "Oh, that car that was parked next to us is gone." I said, "No, Ken, there's another car there." But the other car was black.
I couldn't see
and
it.
so he can't tell the difference between a big space and a black,
No, it's very different for everybody.
Yeah. So there's different kinds of visual impairment?
Yeah, many different types. Some people have vision where it's maybe their peripheral or outside vision is affected, and so they have a pinpoint of vision. There's some people that it's the opposite, where it's the outside or the periphery that's affected, and the middle part is blurry. So a lot of people who maybe are seniors or experiencing macular degeneration have that type of vision. And then for me, I was born with the vision that I have, and it's just sort of blur. I guess it's hard to say because I can't compare it to anything else, but it's blurry sort of everywhere, I guess. Yeah.
So you can see me moving my head?
I can, yeah. But if I was maybe back 2 or 3 more feet, I wouldn't be able to tell. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got off the topic of guide dogs, Guide Dogs for the Blind, the organization. Is there anything else you would like to tell me about the organization? What do you do as let's see, outreach, admissions, and alumni service? Well, tell me about alumni services. What do you do for those?
Yeah. Well, so I can start from the beginning. So for the outreach part, we like to let everybody who possibly could benefit from our services know that we're available, that all of our services are completely free of charge, and that includes after you go home with your dog, helping you take care of your dog and veterinary expenses and all this kind of stuff. So So that's sort of our outreach programs are to let people know about our services. Our admissions is applying to the school. We do a thorough kind of background on people, really make sure that they're ready for this type of mobility option in their life, and make sure that they're ready to succeed. If they still need to build up some skills, then we give them references for places to go to build those skills. And then the alumni part is we have about 2,200 working guide dog teams from our school that live throughout North America here, and so we try to keep those folks connected with one another and also connected with our school, so we can make sure that our services remain relevant.
Sounds like a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I went years ago. I went to one of your graduation ceremonies, and it just blows me away.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about that a little later.
Okay.
Jane.
Yes.
Jane Flower. Not with an S, Jane Flower. Not a bouquet.
Not a bouquet.
Not a bouquet. But lovely nonetheless. So how did you get involved with Guide Dogs for the Blind?
Well, I've actually, I've been a guide dog.
Oh, what is your title?
Oh, okay, I'm the youth outreach specialist. And I actually got connected to guide dogs a long time ago in 1995 when I got my first guide dog. From there, I'm visually impaired myself. And when I was working my second guide dog in 2013, 2012, a position opened up at Guide Dogs, which back then a lot of positions just didn't traditionally open up. And it was in outreach, and I had been doing a lot of outreach in one of my current position before I came to Guide Dogs. And so I applied. And 7 years later, here I am still at Guide Dogs working my third guide dog, Pilaf. So Guide Dogs has been part of my life for a long time, and so being able to come and be a part of the staff and as an employee, a part of me feels like I'm giving back to the organization for all that they've done for me to enhance my life with the three dogs.
What was it like for you to make this decision? It's kind of life-changing, isn't it?
To get the dog?
Yeah, what was that like?
Yeah, it was because as a younger person in my 20s, accepting the fact that I was losing my eyesight was really hard. I didn't want anybody to know. I wanted to hide it. You know, a lot of folks, especially those that don't use a guide dog, use a long white cane. And a long white cane, a lot of times there's a stigma attached to it. People don't really want to approach you or engage you. I guess they're afraid. They don't know what to say. But having a dog is a conversation piece for sure. And so I knew that by getting a dog, it was going to open up a lot of social avenues for me. I'm a social person, I'm an extrovert, I love people, so I knew that people would just naturally want to talk to me because of my dog, and it would kind of maybe bridge that fear a little bit that people might have to approach somebody that can't see. A lot of times people don't know I can't see, and so they approach, and then I tell them I can't see, and then it's a little awkward, but then it's fine, you know, because you have to educate, but I knew that the dog would do that for me, but also just enhance my mobility in general, being able to get around quicker, easier, smoother. You know, a dog is avoids objects, so you walk around down the street much easier and smoother than you would with a long white cane, which is kind of an object finder. It'll find everything in your path, so you kind of run into things and have to figure out how to get around it. So it's a different way of traveling.
With the cane, you've noticed things, but you don't always know exactly what it is. Or
How to get around it. So you have
Yeah.
to kind of futz your way around. But with the dog, they just naturally take you on that clear path of travel
Right.
through space. So it's a
I
lot
watched
smoother.
dogs walk through this labyrinth in the studio. It's just amazing.
They're really smart.
They walked over the wheels and
Yeah.
so that your feet would go right through this narrow path.
They're amazing.
Yeah, really amazing. And from watching that graduations, what do you call that? The graduation ceremony. And what I thought most amazing is they put these things up that were maybe they could have been tree branches across it, just like head high, and your cane wouldn't have found it.
No, that's right.
Yeah, and the dog knows. Yeah, yeah.
They are trained to stop at obstacles, whether they're up high, down low, you know, elevation changes. So they'll put their paws up on a step or walk right to the edge of a step to alert the person that, you know, you need to stop and probe and feel what's there and figure it out.
It's been a long while, but I think what the dog did in that instance is the dog crouched down, which gave you the idea that you needed to. Is that what they did, or would they take you around?
Yeah, now they either will take you around or stop, and then you sort of feel to see what the deal is, and then direct the dog around it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's astounding. Yeah.
They're smart.
So you joined Guide Dogs 7 years ago, and what your title? Youth Outreach.
Youth Outreach Specialist, yes. Yeah, so I primarily am targeting kind of what outreach does, you know, is going out and educating people about the guide dog lifestyle, but I'm focusing more on transition age youth, so like 14 to 25 years of age. Typically someone would not get a guide dog until maybe they were 18, but we are, you know, serving clients younger than that. We really don't have an age limit, but there does have to be a level of maturity for them to be able to get a guide dog. So I have a guide dog summer camp program that I run for teens that are blind or low vision. 14 to 17 years of age. It's a free camp and it's a week long. It's kind of a guide dog immersion. We do a lot of guide dog stuff, like how to prepare for a guide dog, what it's like to have a dog. They get to walk with a dog. They get a dog for overnight, so they get to feed it, take it out, pick up after it, you know, do all that dog care, because that's the majority of what you're doing when you have a guide dog. And then we just do fun camp stuff. We have campfires, we swim, we have gone river rafting, you know, so we do, it's kind of a niche camp, but we do campy stuff too. So, yeah, so that's great.
So that's another piece of the social thing you were talking about.
Yeah, it's great for kids, because there's a lot of kids in the U.S. that, you know, are very isolated. They might be the only one in their school that has vision loss. So to come to camp, you know, like anybody going to camp, you know, you get to meet other kids just like you, and you make those connections. And then hopefully, too, we're connecting them to guide dogs. And then the other great program we have as far as youth is we have a canine buddy program. So dogs that maybe don't make it as a guide dog, we have about 50% that don't make it, maybe a little less than that. We like to see if that dog is able to do some other kind of job, or, you know, or be an ambassador, if you will. So we'll donate dogs to other service dog type organizations. But the Canine Buddy program is specifically, we will gift a dog to a family that has a child that's blind or low vision. And so the dog kind of just becomes a pet, a companion, if you will, for that child. So they grow up with a dog, kind of learn how to take care of the dog. So when and if they're ready to get a guide, they kind of already have that dog piece kind of under their belt. So.
Excellent. Yeah. And so the two of you met there and have become fast friends?
We met before. We met back in 1995. I worked at just a camp for the blind, and Theresa was the camp director, and we met back then. So we've been friends for over 20 years.
So I've hired her twice.
Twice?
But
two different
places. But what's funny is, so when I met Jane, she had a guide dog, her first guide dog, Ari, and I didn't have a guide dog yet. And I was considering it, but I wasn't sure because I had, you know, some remaining vision, and I just wasn't sure if it'd be right for me. And when I met Ari and Jane, that was one of the sort of catalysts for me going and getting a guide dog. So I knew she'd be perfect for outreach because she outreached to me and I got a guide dog. So
It works.
yeah.
So I'm trying to put the timeline together. Were you working for guide dogs before you got a dog?
No, so I was working at, this was many years ago when we were working at,
Oh,
at the
okay.
camp
Okay, the
Enchanted
other-
Hills
yeah,
together.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And do you, typically, people would have more than one dog? I mean, they have a lifespan, and
Yeah.
how long is that usually?
Well, it depends, but generally, statistically with our group of graduates, we find that most people retire their dog when they're about 10 years old, and they get the dog when the dog's almost 2 years old. So it's about 8 years of working. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that hard?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like somebody equates it to like the death kind of a spouse when you have to retire or your guide dog passes away.
A spouse you like.
That you like, yeah. Exactly. It is hard. It's, you've spent all this time and years together, 24/7, and getting to know each other and trusting and loving one another, and then to have to start all over again. And it's almost like when I retired my previous dog, I felt like I was telling her she wasn't good enough anymore, even though it wasn't true. I just wanted to give her, some time to just be a dog. And but even getting the new dog, it took me a while to kind of understand Pilaf and her to understand me, and for me to love her as much as I love my other dog. It's just they're just all so different.
So is Pilaf your second dog?
She's my third.
Dog. Okay.
Yeah. And my second dog is just so unique and special. Like there's, you can't compare them because they're like people. Their personality, everything is so different about them, just like people. So they all have their strengths and their challenges, just like people do.
So you have an option to keep the dog, or do most people keep the dog?
I
Yes.
think they do, yeah. But some people, aren't able to have or can't handle two dogs because maybe they work outside the home and no one would be home with the other dog. So they get the choice if they can keep the dog or they can gift the dog to somebody, or if they can't, guide dogs will always take the dog back and then offer it back up to the puppy raising home, or put the dog up for adoption. So we take as good care of our dogs as we do as our people. So, yeah.
It's just like another facet of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stories and all kinds of realms that are similar to that, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see. So, Theresa, your experience was kind of the same about getting into it. Yeah, you weren't sure, were you sure?
Yeah, I wasn't sure, and I was under the impression that somebody needed to be totally blind in order to qualify for a guide dog. So for a long time, I just didn't think it would be something that would be open to me. Then I met some folks like Jane who had low vision and were working successfully with a guide dog, and so then I was able to kind of see myself in the picture more. And I think that's another reason why outreach is so important to me, is because I feel like I could have benefited sooner from a guide dog than I did. Yeah, so.
Pilaf's asleep.
Oh, she? Yeah, she's worked a lot today, so she's she's tired.
She's out.
We walked a couple miles already today, so.
Just not exciting enough.
I guess not,
And Wills is very attentive.
Raring to go.
He's ready. Put me to work. Put me to work.
Oh, he loves to
Yeah. Can I touch him?
Yeah, of course.
And what is the etiquette about touching your service dog?
You just demonstrated the perfect etiquette. So before interacting with someone's service animal, you should always ask first. And also, it's pretty clear that, Wills is just sort of hanging out here with me. We're not out on the street and working. So it's always a good time to ask when you're not sort of trying to be guided by your dog. The problem that can happen is, these dogs are adorable. We get that. And so people want to touch them, which is great. But when they're actually guiding us, that can be super dangerous, right? If the dog is distracted. It'd be like me grabbing the steering wheel when you're driving. So it's always best to kind of think about it first.
But the dog has the discipline for that. Right? I mean,
They do, but they're dogs. They get distracted. Yeah.
They're social animals. I mean, if
Just
you even
like
look
us.
at Pilaf, she's gonna be like, "Oh, you want to pet me? Okay."
Yeah, exactly. Especially these dogs are so friendly, so people-oriented. They've been loved all their lives. life. So they definitely look towards people. So it's good to sort of ignore them if they're working.
What's the situation as far as acceptance in public places and businesses and restaurants? And
So
how does that work out?
So under the Americans with Disabilities Act, people who have a disability, actual disability, which means someone who has a condition that affects one or more, of senses or whatever that affects their daily life in a significant way. So if somebody with a disability has a trained dog or occasionally miniature horse, they're in the law too.
Really?
They've got
Yeah.
that's your next show, John. But there's very few, so you're gonna have a hard time finding someone. But yeah, so it's only dogs, pretty much, and they have to be trained, to do a task that mitigates the person's disability. So those dogs, accompanied with their person with a disability, are allowed to accompany their person into public areas of public access. So like restaurants and movie theaters and shopping malls and places like that. What unfortunately is happening is, people love their pets, they want to bring them everywhere with them. And so some people are sort of pretending. Yeah, some people are pretending, faking. Yes.
Get a little halter,
Right.
a vest.
So they're kind of, they're out there saying, I'm a person with a disability and this is my dog that's been trained. And the thing is, the dogs aren't necessarily equipped to be in public. These dogs have been socialized since they were first born. To be in the public. So we have a very rigorous puppy raising program and then a very rigorous training program. So the dogs are really, and only the ones that are super comfortable in public are graduated to become guide dogs. So it's really unfair to your dog to take them, on an airplane or something if they're not used to that. They get fearful and then they act inappropriately, which can be threatening to, a service animal, other people, or just sort of give people a bad taste in their mouth about having animals in the public, which then can damage our ability to access the world with our service animals.
So is the law threatened? Is there concern about?
So there are concerns about, there have been some states that have been, sort of looking at changing the laws, basically banning all animals everywhere. And so we have to kind of fight that. But we totally understand about business owners who are confused. And we do have some information on our website at guidedogs.com for business owners so that they understand, what questions they can ask of somebody who brings their dog into that.
Is there some kind of certification that comes with your dog?
There is not, no, at this point.
Maybe do you think that's the way to solve the problem?
There's a lot of slippery slopes with that. The way that the ADA is written right now is that if an animal is acting poorly, whether it's a service dog or not, the business has the right and really the responsibility to ask that person with their dog to leave. People are afraid to do that because they're afraid of being sued.
Yeah.
Right? But that's it is getting confusing. One of some of the ideas that we've actually hired a person to work on advocacy for us at Guide Dogs now. Some of the things that we're looking at is, how do we discourage these websites from selling, fake IDs for service animals and service animal jackets and all this kind of stuff. Trying to find ways around that. So. Yeah.
But you don't like the idea of a
The
certification?
certification thing can be an issue because who's going to certify? What are the criteria going to be? And then is there going to be a, concerns us that then there could be a database of people with different disabilities, and then that could affect, insurance or getting jobs or, things like that because it's really private. Yeah. And then also, they've started doing something like that in British Columbia, and our graduates up there have said it's been a problem because now they're being harassed to show ID even when the dog is acting appropriately. So there needs to be some sort of balance, and we're just really trying to figure out how that might work. Yeah.
It's going to take a while to shake out, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Also some confusion too, because you have the Americans with Disabilities Act, and then you have the Fair Housing Act, and also the Air Carrier, is that what it's called? The Air Carrier Access Act.
And they're all different.
And they're all different. The Fair Housing and the Air Carrier Act, you can bring a quote-unquote emotional support animal into the airplane or into housing, but the ADA does not cover emotional support animals.
Right, so that's confusing to people,
confusing to
yeah.
people as well.
So if an animal's in a grocery store and somebody says, well, it's my emotional support animal, well, that animal doesn't have the right to be in the grocery store,
Yeah.
so.
And the person doesn't have the right to bring the animal.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Mitigating.
Yeah, let's not blame the animal.
No, the animal's fabulous.
Right.
So, yeah, so I just, would like people to think about those kind of things before they drag Fluffy to the grocery store.
So tell me what it's like day to day. Are they a lot of trouble? Is a dog a lot of trouble to take care of?
To take care of a
yeah,
dog?
Yeah.
It just, to me, it kind of just becomes part of your routine. I think at first it can be overwhelming to people sometimes because it's like, oh my gosh, how do I work this dog into my routine? Because they do have to be fed, they do have to be taken out, they have to be brushed, they have to go to the vet sometimes. You got to take care of them. It's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week thing. With your white cane, you fold it up and throw it in the corner. You can't do that with the dog. They have emotional needs just like people. And so I always tell people, you need to think about, all of that because they do need to be cared for 24/7. But it becomes part of your routine. And for me, I love dogs and animals so much that I don't really think about it anymore. It just becomes part of my day. And what she gives back to me and what she does for me, she does so much more for me than I do for her, really, at the end of the day.
Nick wanted to ask how much they eat.
Oh, yeah. Well, like Theresa said earlier when she
So
was
Nick
talking-
is he's off camera.
Camera guy.
He's our camera guy.
Yeah.
He's more than a camera guy.
Yeah.
He's much more than a camera
And
guy.
it's-
But
it's different.
he has some good questions.
It's different for every dog, because all their metabolisms are different. But we split feed, so we'll feed them in the morning and the afternoon. Just as an example, Pilaf eats a cup in the morning and a cup in the afternoon. But one of the biggest problems we see out in the field, and then I think just in general, if you look at people's pets, they're all very overweight because people want to feed dogs. They love to eat, and Labradors love to eat.
And they look at you.
And they look at you with those eyes. And so say Pilaf, I might take a half a cup of her 2-cup ration for the day and put it in my little treat pouch. And throughout the day, I'll be feeding her that. And whatever left, I'll just add to her dinner. So she's still only getting 2 cups a day. It may be just distributed a little bit differently. And as they age, just like we do, our metabolism slows down, or maybe the level of work you're doing with the dog slows down. So maybe you want to feed them a little less because they're getting less exercise.
Or low-calorie
Or
food.
low-calorie food or what have you. So every dog's going to be a little bit different. But guide dogs helps you figure all that out.
So how about veterinary care?
I love that question. Thank you. One thing that's great about our school is that we don't want anybody not to be able to have a guide dog because of the cost of veterinary care, which we all know, those of us who have animals, it can be quite expensive. So we have a veterinary financial assistance program. And so every graduate gets an annual allowance of $250 to have a wellness check done every year, which includes, all their vaccines and things like that. We are giving our graduates an annual supply of flea protection, whether it's Frontline or some other type of flea protection, and Heart Guard for their dog. And then above and beyond that, if there's something that comes up, which it always does with dogs, your dog has a stomach ache and has been vomiting, or it has an ear infection, or it cuts its foot, or something, we ask you to, unless it's an emergency, we ask you to call guide dogs and say, I'm taking my dog to the vet, has an ear infection, and then we'll give you an allowance. We'll say, okay, we're going to give you $150 to take your dog to the vet. And so either you pay for it up front, we'll reimburse you, or we'll have a contract with your vet, and the vet will bill us directly. But we will cover veterinary costs for your dog for the life of your dog, even if you can't keep your dog when it retires, and it'll continue if it goes to an immediate family member. The veterinary financial assistance will continue to the end of dog's life. So, which is just amazing. No other school does that.
I don't think people have that good of insurance anymore.
No. So it's really nice. I have 2 guide dogs at home, this one and my retired dog, and so their vet care is just, it's paid for. So I don't have to worry about it, which is really nice.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? How would someone enroll if someone decided they wanted to
Sure, yeah.
Guide
So,
dog,
so our admissions process starts with a phone call. Just give us a call or fill out our application online at guidedogs.com. And that application just asks some really basic questions. Then one of our admissions specialists will give you a call and talk to you on the phone a little bit more, do a phone consultation, kind of see, you know, what your lifestyle's like, what places you travel. One of the sort of criteria for having a guide dog is that you need to be getting out and doing stuff because dogs need to get out and go places. So you need to have some routes that you know how to do in your home.
And I was thinking travel like getting on airplanes and flights and things.
just walking around.
Is that a problem though?
Yeah.
Is that a
Yeah. So one of the things.
if you were traveling a lot like on airplanes?
No.
That would
It's
not work.
Not at all. Not
Yeah.
a problem. Yeah.
Oh, it's not a problem.
No.
Yeah.
No. But the travel I'm talking about is just getting out and walking and going places. You have places that you go.
Daily
every day.
routine,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So we want to hear more about that. And then if it looks like you have what we're looking for, what we think will be successful, we send out one of our instructors to your home wherever you live, and we do a home interview basically. So we meet you, we get to sort of see what your home environment is like. We do a walk with you, so you show us with your cane the routes that you do regularly, and then we do what's called a Juno walk, where the instructor holds part of the harness and the applicant holds the other part of the harness, and we do a route that way just so you can see what it's like to use a guide dog. Sorry.
It's not ours.
It's not ours. It's a nice ring.
I swear I turned my phone off.
You're a popular guy.
No, I guess I didn't turn my phone off.
Is yours?
Yeah, it's mine. It's over there. I didn't turn it off. Give it to me. I'll turn it off right now. and we can keep rolling if you want. It might be just fine to keep this in there, and
It's going to be a comedy.
Yeah. I hit there's a separate thing. I got to hit the power off twice. Here, you want to take that? Thanks, Nick. Yeah, well, this isn't live, but we're going to run it like it's live. Yeah, we're going to run it like it's live. So, I so appreciate you coming on and being on my show, and I'm even more appreciative and honored because I just learned a little while ago that this isn't your first appearance. You're on a documentary, and there's another thing going on. So you're into some big stuff, not just the little Ask John thing.
Oh no, this is amazing. This is big. This is big time.
Tell me about it.
So so we've been really lucky. There was a documentary filmed about us last year called Pick of the Litter, and that series was picked up as a docuseries. So for more information about that, you can go to guidedogs.com, and it's in our news section to hear more about that. But they're very cool. It shows sort of how the puppies are raised, and then you sort of follow a puppy through its being raised for that first year, through the 12-week training program, and then being matched with their person. So you get to kind of see the full mission all in one. Yeah.
I'm sure it's fascinating, and you must all see it.
Yes.
I think I can say that.
Yes.
Everyone should see. Everyone should see it. Well, I thank you so much, Jane. I'm holding my hand out to shake your hand.
Thank you so much, John.
Theresa, thank you so much.
John.
And I'm going to say goodbye to Pilaf. Trying to figure out what kind of rice this was. Yeah. And not to forget Will's.
Sir
Yeah, I
Wills.
can't forget Wills. We won't let you forget.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's tune in again.
So much
Okay.
fun. Thank you.
Okay, take care.